Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting of your Newark City Council order October 17, 2022, 7 p.m. Janine, please call the roll. Oh, wait a minute. Do I have to do that again? Sorry about that.
You're just practicing.
Little technical difficulty.
Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Mr. Barker.
Here.
Ms. Blind.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Ms. Hattinger.
Here.
Mr. Hauser.
Here.
Mr. Labutus.
Here.
Mr. Lang.
Present.
Mr. Marmy.
Present.
Mr. Rath.
Here. We have all here present this evening. If you please rise for the invocation by Mr. Howe.
Let's pray. Lord, I want to start off by thanking you for all the many ways that you have blessed us, for living in this great free country where we can all take part in government, and comment and give feedback, all the great legislation we've talked about this evening. I just thank you for blessing us with that privilege. I also want to lift up to you all of our safety forces here in the city, whether it's fire, police, or anyone that's involved in that you would watch over them and give them safety. I just want to thank you again for all the people who are participating. And all these things in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. Today for the Pledge of Allegiance, we have Jacqueline Tiger, first grader from Par Excellent Academy. And she's going to lead us in the pledge. So Jacqueline, whenever you're ready.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was perfect. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda, we have caucus. That's the time for council to discuss anything pertaining to the agenda tonight. Do we have anything? For this topic.
I have two abstentions tonight, ordinance 2239 and 2292.
2239, 2292.
Yes.
Will be abstaining. Okay. Anyone else? Next, we go on to the minutes of our October 3rd, 2022 meetings. A motion to approve those. Motion by Mr. Labutus, second by Mr. Harris. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. There are no appointments this evening. We have 4 reports this evening from standing committees, one from finance, one from safety, one from capital improvements, and one from personnel. Without objection, those will be received and filed. Under reports from city officials, we have 2 this evening, one from our auditor Ryan Bob and one from Brittany Cooper, our tax administrator. The operating reports for the period ending September 30th, 2022. Those will be received and filed. Under communications, we have 2 tonight. One from Licking County Commissioners notifying us of the new Hebron Township. And the other is from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control transfer application from Newark's Gateway South, which is the Millwell National Drive, to also North Gateway South, which will be the Millwell, which will now be moving up to Worley Avenue. Without objection, those will be received and filed. Next on the agenda this evening, we have comments from citizens. That's the time for you to be heard. This is not a debate or a question and answer period with council. This is just your opportunity to let us know what you're thinking. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. I'll call you up in order. If not, there's also another period after the legislation tonight. So you want to come on up? Anyone else like to speak? Okay. If you'll just give us your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is David Willis. My address is 10412 Pete Moss Road, Newark, Ohio. Why I'm here today is mainly to get an understanding from the leadership, from a general direction for the city. I actually have a business. I'm a business owner of Maxine's Bargain Walks in the Colonial Shopping Center. I've been in business for approximately 12 years. I've made long-term plans that actually planned through the pandemic. As a result of my planning, I was able to grow the business successfully about 90% over the last 3 years. The reason why I'm actually here also is it's more of a, and I know this, I just heard it was not a question and answer, and I'm not meaning to ask questions or directly, but in general, the easiest way I can describe this is truth is in actions, not words. And so when you see actions occurring or things occurring, there's truth within that. This is my question generally for the council is this direction of the city of Newark to become more of a sanctuary city versus some other. And the main reason for this question is we have Intel moving in, and as a result, there's huge amount of business opportunity coming in this region, Johnstown, Randallville, Heath, and so forth. And I'm basically looking at the direction the city's coming, so I can make plans for addressing my business for the long-term future. If the answer is yes, no big deal, I have my answer and I can make adjustments for my business accordingly. If the answer is no, I want to be part of the solution, not the problem. And as a result, I request that I be able to meet with my ward. And I thank Ryan for meeting because I met with the wrong guy. Looked the word up wrong, and I met with him, reached out, and he met with me to talk. And if the answer is no, then I would like to meet with my ward representative and the three at large to sit down for one-on-one individual conversations to share information. From the information is where you can design solutions. Coming up here and just complaining about a scenario, this is not a solution. And that was it. So it's really, it's city of Newark direction, is leadership direction, is to have Newark become a sanctuary city for the central area. If the answer is yes, thank you. And I can make plans accordingly for my business. If there's no, I want to move forward to change the actions and the directions within my area relative to how it's impacting my business.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Your council folks and the at-large people, actually everybody on council is on the website, their phone numbers.
Yeah, I guess the wrong one. I put the map upside down.
I guess the short answer for me, and just me speaking, is I don't believe we're going to be entertaining a sanctuary, being a sanctuary city.
But then there's a reason for me being here, so that I would want to follow up conversation.
I understand, that would be great. Sir, anyone else want to speak this first period?
My name's John, 94 Beacon Road, North Ohio. I got a couple of things today. One is Main Street. There where the bridge is blocked off. Does anybody know the time frame for when that's going to get unblocked? I know the people still put money into getting their business running and everything down there, but at the same time, it's a pain in the butt for a lot of people around Newark with that street being blocked off. And the second thing is, I'm a part of the Salvation Army Toy Run that's coming up. And I would just like any of you guys that would like to come out first Sunday of November to Walmart and Heath for our toy drive to support it a little bit. And if we could get the Newark Advocate out there, it would be really nice. So that's all I have right now.
Thank you. Next, we move on to ordinances on our second reading, 22-39.
Ordinance number 22-39 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Marmy, and Mr. Labutus, an ordinance accepting the dedication of public use of the streets in Connor's Path subdivision phase 2.
You've heard the second reading of 22-39. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 22-39.
Motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Harris. For discussion on 22-39. Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger,
Abstain.
Mr. Hauser,
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
9 yes, no's, 0 no's, and 1 abstention. So that passes. Next, we move on to ordinances on the first reading, 22-40.
Ordinance number 22-40A by Mr. Lang, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Marmy. An ordinance amending the department authorization tables of the City of Newark Department of Human Resources and creating a position of risk control and education specialist and setting the compensation therefore.
22-40A will be held until our next meeting, which it will be in 2 weeks, actually 3 weeks, will be November 7th. And next, we got 22-41.
Ordinance number 22-41A by Mr. Lang, Mr. Labutus, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Marmy. An ordinance amending the department authorization tables of the City of Newark Department of Service, Division of Cemetery and Parks, abolishing the unfunded position of crew leader / project assistant and creating the position of assistant superintendent and setting the compensation therefore.
And 22-41A will be held until November 7th, our next meeting. Okay, we'll move on to resolutions on the second reading, 22-89.
Resolution number 22-89 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Rath, and Mr. Labutus. A resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, a one-year use of funds / action plan, along with an application for FY 2023 Federal Community Development Block Grant Funds, CDBG, as required by 24 CFR Part 91.220 for various programs related to housing and community development.
You've heard the second reading of 22-89. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 22-89.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Is there any discussion on 22-89? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
22-89 passes 10-0. Next on the second reading, we have 22-90.
Resolution number 22-90 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Rath, Mr. Labutus. A resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
You've heard the second reading of 22-90. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy.
make a motion to adopt resolution 22-90.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lang. Is there any discussion on 22-90? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
22-90 passes 10-0. Next on the second reading, we have 22-91.
Resolution number 22-91 by Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Marmy, Mr. Rath, and Mr. Labutus. A resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
Heard the second reading of 22-91. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Ms. Hattiger.
as soon as we adopt ordinance, resolution 22-91.
Motion to adopt by Ms. Hattiger.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barker. Is there any discussion on 22-91? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
22-91 passes 10-0. Finally, on the second reading, we have 22-92.
Resolution number 22-92 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Rath, and Ms. Blind. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service for the City of Newark, Ohio to enter into a lease agreement with Park National Bank for the lease purchase of one medic unit for the Division of Fire.
Heard the second reading of 22-92. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy.
make a motion to adopt resolution 22-92.
Motion by Mr. Marmy. Second by Ms. Blind. Is there any discussion on 22-92? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Abstain.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
22-92 passes 9 yes, 0 no's, and 1 abstention. And finally, we go to resolutions on the first reading, 23-93. 20, make that 22-93.
Resolution number 22-93 expedite by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Labutus, and Ms. Blind. A resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
22
Mr.
Mr. Marmy.
Make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 22-93.
Motion to waive the 2-day reading rule by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. We need to expedite this. We have a payout for somebody who's retiring. Actually, 2 people are retiring. Want to get them their monies as quickly as possible. Plus, we have some money that we have to appropriate for notes that are due.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Janine, please call the roll, waive the 2-day reading rule.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
2-day reading rule has been waived. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to adopt resolution 22-93.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Is there any discussion on 22-93? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Who was that again?
Labutus.
Oh, that's right. 22-93 passes 10-0. And finally, we have 22-94. I can't remember.
Resolution number 22-94 by Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Marmy, and Ms. Blind. A resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
And 22-94 will be held at our next meeting on November 7th. And that concludes legislation tonight. I appreciate your attention. Thank you. Next, we have another opportunity for comments from citizens. The same rules apply. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? So you want to come on up? Anyone else want to speak? Okay, I guess just you.
Hello, my name is Cody Miss. My
Yeah,
address is 654 Mount Vernon Road. That's here in Newark, Ohio. I am actually opening a tattoo studio in Art Gallery on Hudson Avenue, corner of Hudson and St. Clair. About 1/4 of the space is for the actual tattooing and tattoo business. 3/4 of the space for an art gallery. Looking more of a cultural hub than anything. I think we're really using that area. When I was getting ready to open this, I already had the health inspector do a pre-screening. I've been installing like hardwood floors, doing various things to get ready to open. And I just got rezoned into the downtown DC district. I love the downtown DC district. I'm not trying to uphold it or anything like that, but ordinance 1022C prohibits tattoo studios from opening in that area. As I was getting ready to open, it just got rezoned. I already applied for the redistricting, but I'm looking at like a 4-month timeline through things like this in planning committee. I think it's the next one is when I'll be able to get that like fully on the board. I just want to introduce myself and get to know everyone. And also the ordinance itself, I feel like it's federally illegal. It's unconstitutional. Tattooing, the act of tattooing, the tattoo itself is all protected by the First Amendment's free speech clause. Federal courts have upheld this time and time again. We've had cases in Hermosa Beach, Mesa, Arizona, where similar ordinances have happened in other cities. And time again, federal courts have upheld the tattoo. It's protected by the First Amendment. I not only would like to get this redistricted, but I'd also like to get that ordinance completely, I guess, amended or just thrown out completely. This is not just a tattoo studio, but for that purpose also, I think it's unconstitutional to have an ordinance like that in the city. That's pretty much everything for now. I'll be back more information. I'd love to meet you all one-on-one and get to know you, really, get you to know me.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any city officials this evening, Mr. Rhodes?
Yes, I'll speak.
You want to?
Yeah.
What? Cody? This is Dave Rhodes, he's the service director.
Yes.
Any city officials like to speak this evening? Janine and the mayor, I'd like to thank you for the new nameplates. They look really great. Janine ordered them, the mayor drove them, so hey, we're looking good. Very nice. And the first one to speak on the miscellaneous tonight is actually the one with the most letters on her sign. Law Director Moore.
Well, I just want to say thank you, particularly to Spencer Barker, to Mark Religious, who both were happy to meet with me and talk out those ordinances. Beth Blind, giving the input throughout the entire time. Thank you for that. For me talking up beyond that, so I'm going to stop because I'm sure I'm going to be talking more.
Thanks. Mayor Hall.
Just 3 things I want to go real quick. Appreciate citizens coming in and sharing comments. I do want to remind everybody, because I knew a couple people about to leave, anytime you want to write something down, send an email, direct it over to Janine. That's part of, it can be part of the minutes, it can be part of, everyone sees all that. So I just want everybody to understand, while we welcome you to come in and share your opinions, you can also, if it's not convenient to come on a Monday night, you can surely get with council member. You can get in a lot of ways. Any information that gets in here, we all share and look at and become a part of it. So don't feel you have to be here. That's what I'm saying. I have to be there all night. So I want you to understand the importance of that. And some people are not always comfortable with speaking about people. Second of all, I would say I sometimes talk when you turn on the water, it comes out and it seems pretty easy and simple. I think surely Roger proved tonight how busy our water department is between water, wastewater, and stormwater. I think we all ought to be extremely thankful for what we have with Roger and his entire team. They do phenomenal. I see it all the time. You don't see it quite as much because I'm involved and know the status of all these projects, but it's really amazing what they do. And he knows all that by heart. He's been nearly 40 years with us, and I think we're very appreciative. As I say, it's kind of, you turn the water on and it all works fine and it seems great, but there's a whole lot of work behind that constantly. So we should be very, very proud of our systems. And finally, I'll address West Main Street kind of quick. West Main Street, there is work done there every day. through the work week, has been for a few months. It's all under the guidance of the Ohio EPA. So that's who kind of comes in and directs us what we had to do. The intent was to remediate asbestos. There was pipe wrap in that. After you have a fire, it kind of changes that a little bit. But the Ohio EPA changed some of the rules and tightened them up on us. So the remediation, where it's the removal of the asbestos, went into about a probably September, October, at almost a 2.5 month project. And that they're winding that down. And as soon as that is done, that's the first step that has to happen. Then we can push in that outside wall, and then we can open up Main Street and remove the debris out the backside. So it's, again, you may not, most people obviously aren't up in that area because of the street being closed. Appreciate everybody's patience throughout this process. The EPA kind of cranked things down. There was one time they talked about they wanted negative pressure within that building. You can even imagine how you could ever create that. But you may have seen, they put visqueen or plastic wrap over all the windows they had to do, which was a major process. Thank gosh we went through that without any weather events that would have blown those out and they had to replace them. But it's highly regulated again from the EPA, and we had to go through that. We anticipate and hope, I hate to do promises, but I really hope in the next couple of weeks here, they're thinking probably by maybe 3 weeks from now, maybe we can get the road back open. All intent definitely before winter and definitely do that. But it was drug on. We thought August would be the time frame when the EPA came in and changed the rules a little bit and made it much tougher. And I petitioned all the way up to the governor's office and everywhere to try to change it a little bit. But they got their means for what they do. So with that, I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a couple things regarding resolution 22-99. I think we all support, we all ran on safety as our number one thing. So we all, want the safety of our citizens. So I just want to make sure that we are, crossing our T's and dotting our I's, and I mean, I live on Clarendon, so it's the cut through between Cedar and Buena Vista. So I've seen multiple police chases, bike chases, Escalade, going 60, just the other day, I was going into town down 16, going under the 13 bridge. And I was in the left lane and I was going, 60, and the state highway patrolman sitting right there. And I thought he was pointing out at me, but he pulled out behind a white Acura and he saw his window and he punched it. And I do not know if you guys got him. So I feel like we had a flock camera there. Even if the state wouldn't have been able to get the license plate, the camera probably. So even though he gassed it and thought he got away, he wouldn't have. So that guy was gone, so I don't know if the state highway patrolman caught him, but I mean, car related crimes, I've seen plenty. So I am a supporter of, this resolution. But I just want to make sure we are doing our due diligence. So with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Mr. Parker?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just would like to say a couple of thank yous to Joe Paul and his crew. There's been a house on 21st Street that kind of has a revolving garage sale, flea market every day, and they have gotten with those owners, gotten that taken care of, as well as really a safety concern out in the far north part of the city with a home that had put a shed in their side yard on stilts, and the neighbors were worried that a child could go under it and we would have an issue. So they've been extremely helpful these past 2 weeks in getting that taken care of with those citizens and making that safe in that area. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Ms. Blind?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I too want to thank our NPD, and I want to thank you for the partnership that's growing between the citizens. And they really appreciate you. They appreciate the safety director, and like Mr. Ryan, I too want to be sure that we do our due diligence and make sure we get as many questions answered as possible ahead of time. So, but I want to thank the engineers department for the new signs on Beacon. That's a highly trafficked neighborhood. There's a lot of traffic, a lot of kids. And so those new signs have really made a big impact. And I'd like to thank streets and property maintenance. There's been a list of properties that the residents have been consistently just going after. And that's a new partnership too. The citizens are gaining confidence in the process. Who can they write? Who can they petition and to see change happen? And it's a big deal because there's a shift happening. There's a shift. Citizens are coming out, they're not afraid anymore. And they're taking back their neighborhoods. They want that city partnership. And I just want to thank the local businesses for contributing as well. So with that.
Thank you, Ms. Blind. Mr. Harris?
I'll get with you after the meeting and.
Thank you very much.
information. My answer would be no, so.
There's a reason why I was here,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna work.
All right, with that, I'll pass, so.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ms. Flannery?
Thank you, Mr. President. I made this announcement during committee, we were talking about the special improvement district, but for those of you who didn't hear it or weren't here, the annual meeting of the Downtown Newark Special Improvement District is being held November 9th at 6 p.m. on the stage of the Midland Theater. We have it every year to go over the services that we're going to be offering for the year coming up. So it's a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about what the CID does in downtown. It's open to the public. That I pass.
Thank you, Ms. Flannery. Mr. Hauser?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was in New York for the first time. The block cameras came before committee, but I do want to make a couple of comments. I talked with a few different residents about this issue, and I think I kind of got two perspectives. One was I'm super excited that we are getting serious about crime and willing to take big steps to fight that. And then I definitely heard some comments of concerns about privacy, but I think it was already made this comment earlier in committee. That most of the time people's comments with regards to privacy was again assuming that there was an expectation of privacy driving on public roadways. And I don't think that expectation of privacy really exists. So definitely in support of that and excited that the police department is taking steps to be actively against crime. I think it's going to be great for the city, representing the citizens of East Newark. Don't need to tell everybody here there's a lot of crime in East Newark, and any steps that we can take to make that an improvement, I think is going to be a great thing. So a couple other things. Dave, thanks for coming out. You did read the map wrong, but I didn't. We're all in this together, so I don't really care on that. I was happy to hear your inputs, and you don't want to hear just words. The answer like I told you when we met was no, but I mean, obviously excited for you to have further conversations with other people. On the sound ordinance, Trish, thanks for letting us pepper you with questions there for a little while. Right, so appreciate that. And look forward to further discussion and comments on that. Last thing, organized a little cleanup on the east side bike path, and Councilwoman Blind was out there with me, and we had a whole bunch of residents out there. So I want to thank Chance Pasnick with our Parks Department. She lent us a truck and some supplies, and we went out there and went to work. We didn't make it near as far as we were intending. We could still see the part where we started and we ended for the morning, but we got a whole lot of trash and cleaned up a lot of areas, and it was great. We even had people coming from their houses on the bike path come out and help us out because they were excited to see us out there. So thanks, Chance, for providing some of that. So that helps.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser. Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Allen, I just wanted to thank Law Director Moore for all her work on the noise ordinance and the updated DOC as well. And I want to thank the residents for coming out to give us feedback, ask questions as well. We'll continue in a few moments. With that, I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lamb?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Resolution 2299, others have talked about it already. I continue to have concerns around flock and bringing that into our community. And they're most definitely not related to my trust in the police department at all. Again, it's about concerns about allowing a for-profit business to come into our community, collect information on the movement of our people throughout the community. And then clearly, in my view, looking at the contract terms, having the ability to profit from that. I have a problem with that. I have a lot of reservations with that. I do think there's potential for other enhanced data collection down the road that we're not really protecting ourselves from. And we talked about that at last meeting as well. And I also have concern about how the terms are set up in terms of the liability that Flock is taking on. I think they've done a kind of overly protective job of making sure that their liability is limited for data breaches. So they're not really ultimately responsible for how our data is protected. So I would just urge us to proceed with caution on this. I think we're still gathering information about what it is flock even does, and it seems to me there's still confusion about whether it tracks your movement, whether it doesn't track your movement. So I just think as a community, we're moving along at a quick pace here on something that I think when we look back, we're gonna regret. So with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need to call a finance committee meeting for November the 7th. Mr. Willis, I believe that it falls within.
All of you?
Yes, so I can get with you. The mayor already took care of Main Street. Cody, I guess the legislation and the constitutional right that you referred to was a complete ban of tattoo parlors. We restrict all kinds of businesses in our zoning all the time. And it is not unconstitutional for us to restrict what type of businesses or what type of residential housing, multiple family housing is in certain areas of our municipality. So it is not in violation or unconstitutional in that capacity because we did not ban it. As a matter of fact, at one point, the city, there was a proposal to ban billboards. And we did not pass that legislation because it was right there teetering on that unconstitutional. And so, but we did put restrictions on where they could be and how far apart and so on and so forth. So we are authorized to put restrictions on whatever type of business or freedom of speech or whatever it is within our municipality, just to maintain some integrity of different areas within our community. So I just want to clarify that a little bit. As far as the flock, I guess, first of all, I want to just make sure that everyone is clear. 2299, if it doesn't pass, they can still get the flock system because all it is just waiving competitive bidding. If it doesn't pass, they can do it with competitive bidding. It's just going to take them a little bit longer. It's already been passed, it's authorized. If somebody wanted to stop it, really the one that you should be opposed to is the one that the grant funding for it, because that is the funding for it. And so if there is something that you want to, if you're in disagreement, that is the legislation that really will allow them to do it. The legislation for the flock system has already gone through. The only thing that has not yet is the funding, and 2299, they can do it with or without it. So just so you're aware of that. I too have some concerns about data breaches and things like that as far as safeguards. I've always here recently been taught that, most businesses, especially large organizations, what they do is, as far as data breach, they try to protect their data and they do safeguards for it. But the most important part of their program now, as far as data breaches, is how they're going to handle it when it happens. Not if it happens, when it happens. Because data breaches, it's next to impossible to protect data in today's society and with all these hackers and everything else that's going on. So therefore, we need to make sure that Flock has something in there as far as those data breaches and what could be handled. And literally their liability is none on that. The city would be liable for that. And then finally, I just want to comment, the hottest topic that I have had with citizens lately, and it was at the last block watch we went to, and Councilman Harris was there too, the homeless. It is really spreading. It's moving, and there's not a part of the city that is not being impacted by it. It's happening in a negative fashion towards businesses, towards residential housing. It has citizens scared. And I think that you know, we've all talked about things that need to be addressed in whatever manner. And I heard a gentleman this evening said, action. We need to start taking action. I think that in the next, you know, before the end of the year, we need to make sure that something is addressed, that we start the process of making sure that we put safeguards in our legislation to protect, you know, it from spreading and growing. We have a beautiful city and it's even getting better. We just need to make sure that we protect that integrity and we make sure that it doesn't have that dark cloud hanging over it. And I think that right now, that is something that is probably the closest thing to putting that negativity in our community. We have future expansion coming our way. We have affordable housing just right around the corner. We have a lot of great things that are happening. We have to address that dark cloud. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Mr. Rath.
Thank you. I guess I'll start off with calling the service committee meeting on the 7th, so I don't forget that. I've got all kinds of things going on here. If you guys have put that in the flat cameras in the 3rd floor, no doubt in my mind that they will record each and every single license plate out there because those vehicles are moving at a snail's pace. Cherry Valley Bridge being closed is
How is that?
It was your fault. It was your fault.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's made the West End a mess, absolutely. There are all kinds of issues. I know we've had increased truck traffic, semi-traffic down River Road. We've had a lot of places. I wanted to thank Mr. Rhodes. I know he's going to help me on some 4-way stops in the country club area. It's just traffic backed up on 30th Street from 30th Street to Church Street and then 30th Street all the way to the beach. The hospital signs that are directing people to the hospital are now void because that road is closed and that's something else that needs to be addressed. It is without a doubt a cluster. Absolutely bar. So hopefully we'll find a way to make it better out there. It definitely needs it. Want to thank Mr. Bowder. I asked him for something today and tonight, and it was a matter of seconds before it was in my inbox, or maybe minutes. I don't know, but nonetheless, appreciate the quick response. That was very much appreciated. But then I'll shut up and I'll look forward to the continued conversation on the noise ordinance.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, with certainly been a big topic of conversation the last week and a half or so with folks with the federal people, ODOT, and Mr. Rath all closing down the Cherry Valley Road Bridge. It has, you're exactly right. It has. On a lighter note, I know the mayor and I know the engineer and the service director, I think, are working tirelessly on a fix. So hopefully we'll have that information here pretty soon, but hopefully it will not be a 2-year thing. I think the fix is in. I think it's getting close. So hopefully we'll hear about that soon. And with that, our next meeting is November 7th, 5:45 for committees, 7 o'clock for council. Stay tuned after this for about 3 minutes. We'll go back to the safety committee and talk about the noise ordinance. Motion adjourned.
And capital
Motion
improvements.
I'm sorry.
And capital improvements after that.
And capital improvements after that. Yes, 2 committees to go. Motion by Mr. Labuda, second by Mr. Harris. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. That passes. Thank you.
No, you're.
So nobody knows.
I think.
Yeah. Oh, he doesn't. He doesn't.
I like the resolution. That's kind of neat. A lot of our employees.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
She can get a hold of his neck.
What?
Should take a bunch of.
I didn't take messages for you, sorry.
I'd like to call the safety committee meeting back to order. Thank you for sticking around after the council meeting to finish the discussion. Again, we're discussing ordinance 22-43 and 22-44 as well. Dr. Moore, do you have anything that you want to add?
One thing that I discussed with the chief is reports or complaints cannot be anonymous. So they have to have a name for us to take it seriously and to respond to a complaint. because we mean business. If we have to respond and there's a violation, it's gonna go to court, and I need people to testify, and I need whoever made that report. So that's one thing we wanted to address. So other than that, I'm open to questions.
I know there were some that had raised their hands previously, Mr. Barker.
Yeah, I just want to make just a comment on the whole process of this. You know, as Trish said, we did start this, well, since I've been on council in late 2019, it was what I was hearing. And has been something that I hear every month about, and we've worked on it. And I really have to commend Trish for her work on this, because she pulled multiple different municipalities across the state, across the country, of all different sizes, to really see what they did as far as the noise ordinance or, you know, the DOC. And so a lot of thought, a lot of time, a lot of discussion has gone into this. And I would just really love to see this get passed through, get everyone's support, so we can get this working after the first of the year.
I know some people had raised your hands earlier, wanted to speak. Please state your name and address.
Jeff Molden, 494 Beacon Road, North Ohio. One of the things I wanted to ask is, they said that what would justify for a higher reading, and then the hardship for the business itself is what I don't understand. And then when we talked about this before, about the decimal reading, we were told that if they weren't calibrated after every one, that it couldn't stand up in court.
So let me explain the difference between recalibrating and calibrating. Okay. The decimal meters that the Newark Police Department is in use, and I know Chief McGee can speak to this as well, they are capable of being checked to make sure that they're working properly. So that is what we call checking the calibration, not recalibrating or calibrating machines. Now, most machines, if there is an error, it will let you know. If there's an error, or it doesn't check right with the calibration check, that means that there's a problem, and it will be resent out to the company to be recalibrated. We do that with speed measuring devices, the laser, the radar, etc. In order to use those, once let's say we have a violation using the decimal meter, we will bring that to court, and we will have an expert from the company fly in and testify as to the accuracy of that device and its reliability. At that point, the court can take judicial notice of it, so that once that is journalized with the court, that it's a reliable working machine, and that they find the readings, if properly checked in the hands of a trained officer, reliable, we won't ever have to do that again. And the court will go off the testimony of the person responding. And now what we do in speeding cases is that the officer gets up there and they testify how they check that machine for accuracy. They have to put that in front of the court, say, this is what I did to make sure that this was working properly. This is the reading I have. After that reading was checked within compliance of the standards, it was put into service.
Mr. Walker, yeah. So.
You need me to move this.
No. Yeah, this is Tim Walden, 167 South That Street. Okay, there's some questions and some answers. I'm stuck in the middle. I'm gonna tell you, everybody, I'm stuck in the middle because, yes, I want voice orders. Before even you got on council, we would have meetings.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who want a fair one, like the businesses and stuff. One question I got is, what is the charge on the to fill out paperwork? Is there gonna be a charge?
There will be a charge.
How much? And that's one. If like you said, at the beginning of the year, can somebody come in and say, well, I'm gonna have one every weekend, but it's not, maybe because of rain, it's not gonna be one that weekend. Can they go all year long, or can you just go have to go every month or something like that? Events, yeah. You said, God, a bunch of stuff I can wait to ask. The noise ordinance, the noise decibel. You said qualify it. I want to ask, is this the same? The meter, is it the same one that we had 20 years ago?
Oh, no, sir.
How soon have you had that? Because I know,
Probably in the last 5 years, we just had to recount.
okay, I want to know because we had trouble with that one several years ago. They had to bench it.
Yeah.
And, this is about question. You answer my question, I'll think about more.
Okay.
Oh, okay, there's one, there's one. You said 50 feet. Is that the meter, when you read out, when somebody come out and talk to you, call the police,
Uh-huh.
where does he take the reading at?
Okay, you're
At
talking about two different things.
Is it gonna be at the edge of the property line of the owner? Or is it gonna be at a far distance from, in a residential area, that call?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes, we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
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 So the disorderly conduct statute talks about the 50 feet.
Okay.
So when, let's say, there's a guy down the road playing radio really loud in his, I'll give you an example because we actually had a case on Heath. The officer pulls up, he can hear the music coming out of an apartment 50 feet away, and he can hear every word of the song being played. And they had a complaint that that music was too loud. So that's an example of how the disorderly conduct would work.
Okay.
Not necessarily, it doesn't rely on a decibel reading. Okay, now, we could certainly use a decibel reading to prove the unreasonableness if we wanted to, okay? Now, in reference to measurements from concert venues that may not be in residential areas, we are going to go to the site of the complaint.
In the house.
Yes, so the site of the complaint, they're the ones calling in saying the music is too loud at my house, I live here. They're gonna go out to that side of the complaint and they're gonna take a reading from their property.
Now, can I ask more? Okay, or multi-calls. Now, when several years ago, several before the law, you guys, I think you was on the board, about the alcohol places.
Like bars?
Well, this for example. They had a group of people. I know you said you have to be name and address and all that stuff. What would happen if a group of people get together and say, oh, okay, we actually against music at this corner bar, okay? We're gonna start calling in every week. And we're gonna make complaints and complaint every. How is that going to handle? Is that going to be?
There has to be an investigation.
Okay, that's okay.
So the police are gonna have to go out to the scene. They're gonna stand there, they're going to listen. If it's a reading situation, they're gonna have a reading, now they're gonna take a reading. If it's unfounded, there's gonna be no action. There has to be an investigation. If we won't just go off a citizen's complaint without anything else. There's no crime that we would handle like that.
So I'm glad you said you have to have complaints.
That's why I want to know people's names.
Is the qualification for the reader? There's gonna be one officer gonna be qualified in each shift, or is it gonna be just anybody grab that meal and go out?
I believe they have to be trained.
Okay.
We have multiple, so they're trained.
Okay, I'm going to.
Multiple officers.
Well, that's. I mean, I don't know about the radio and stuff, my dad used to be a radio.
Sure. Yeah, we have multiples that are trained. The training is very simple in that. It's common.
Okay, well, okay, I think about more. That's
All right,
why I-
then let me know.
Okay.
Mr. Smith.
Can she answer the other questions, the cost and
Oh,
stuff?
Yes, so in the legislation, and this is how it was written, that is going to be a cost, hold on, let me get the exact wording.
Where you're looking at, what are the fines?
For violations?
Yeah.
Well, the first one is minor misdemeanor, so it's 150.
What's the question?
What are the fines?
Fine.
So one, first offense without having to ask you to stop, or I imagine here, let me play the situation out, I'm in chief with you. You can tell me if this is correct. Police are gonna go out, your music is too loud. You need to turn down your music. Okay? They don't turn it down. Well, that's a minor misdemeanor.
That's a disorderly conduct.
So that's what, under the sound ordinance or disorderly conduct, it gives the police the option to cite under the. If they continue after the minor misdemeanor citation, and they will have the ability to issue minor misdemeanor citations, that doesn't need to be submitted to my office like it used to be. They come back after that citation and it's still too loud, that becomes a jailable offense. Becomes a misdemeanor 4th degree with a fine up to $250 and possibility of 30 days in jail. Yeah. Okay, it says fees assessed shall be paid by the applicant at the time of filing the application in accordance with the schedule of fees formulated by the Director of Public Safety and filed with the Board of Council. And I will say, this big part is already in our ordinance. I mean, we really are not inventing anything new. We're trying to make it friendlier to businesses, but this is currently as it reads. If this ordinance weren't to pass, the times would be 9:30. There would be no exceptions for businesses to go longer. And the variances would work the same, except we have to publish them in the newspaper, which would be really, really expensive. And the owner would have to pay for that before the application is even accepted. So we're actually trying to make it more friendly, allow you to operate longer than how it's written right now and could be enforced right now.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Smith was next.
Stephen Smith, 237 Private Court. I think you may have actually just answered my question. But I was just wondering, my question was basically, what's not understanding quite the reading here, or getting what the penalties for it. What's keeping them from just taking those fees as being a cost of doing business? And they may have answered that, but who is actually getting jailed in this case? Who is actually sitting in the jail?
The person that is indicated to be responsible. Now, if that person is not, if that person is not on the variance or they did request a variance, it's anyone, it can be the owner, anyone who permits, or let me read that, I don't want to misquote.
I was trying to read through that.
Right, it's kind of hard to read when it's
Clear to
choppy,
me.
yeah. And it doesn't, we're not gonna put the whole thing. Operates, plays, or permits the operation or playing of any, whatever is violating the noise ordinance.
Okay, so
My hope is that business owners take charge of their buildings.
we always hope that, yes.
Right. Yep.
Just make sure everyone speaks up for so we can get the recording there. Thank you.
Hi, Rochelle Boland Smith, 237 Violet Court. Several things. One is, I feel that a lot of these, particularly outdoor venues, need to build in noise barriers, and that has been proven effective in other cities. The other thing is, I think key here, I'm not understanding the DBA's. The thing is, this is a safety issue, and then certain decibels in the high range and low range especially can be debilitating, not just to hearing, but other parts of the body too. I think that really has to be considered very strongly. I think the pub, just saying that they're going to put a sign outside that says we're going to be allowed tonight is insufficient. The public, the people that have been living in the areas do have rights. And they have been living in those areas in a large part a lot longer than these businesses have been in existence. And I think that needs to be considered, and I'm not sure that's in here. Thank you.
Question in the back, and then I'll come back up.
Can I respond?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the part that you're reading about the sign has to do with the noise levels inside the venue. Okay, so if a concert inside a venue is higher than 95, which is really loud, probably like, I remember an AC/DC concert I went to, and it was, your ears are ringing when you're walking out of there. If anybody wants to have their music that high, that's when they have to place a sign where any customer would be, knowing that they're coming into the event and there could be hearing damage. So that's already in the ordinance. That was already part of it. I left that part in.
How does that affect the neighborhood though?
Well,
They are not protected
it has
by this.
nothing to do with the sound coming out. That would have to do with the variance and the decimal readings that we're receiving in the residential neighborhoods coming out from that venue.
David, address your record, please.
Hi, my name is Tamara Litton, and I'm representing John's Tavern today at 420 West Main. My question is I'm a bartender there on Saturdays. We have karaoke every Saturday. So if I have to put in this order that every Saturday I have to sign for it, right?
Well, it depends on if you're gonna break the sound ordinance.
Well, if we're, it's
You know what I mean?
supposed to be like, say, from what, 8 to 12 is when we have karaoke.
Okay.
Okay, so we have it from those hours. What if I get sick on Saturday and I can't go to work?
Well, then you would have to let us know who is in charge.
Okay, you wouldn't know. I have to call in.
Well, if you're the
So are
person,
you going to be open on Saturdays? So if I were to get sick, I can, who do I get a hold of to let them know? I'm not gonna be here. I got
I would
sick.
say the police department, because they would be the ones enforcing it. So
As long as
there's,
when we show up, we say who's in charge, somebody goes me. If somebody goes, I don't know, then we'll handle it from there. But as long as somebody goes, yes, she was sick, I'm in charge, I'm responsible. Okay, please have it, turn it down, we got a complaint. I can hear it clear out here, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, I'm sorry, we'll turn it down, no problem. We continue life as we did before.
they're open 24/7, 365. So that should.
We're very open. This isn't a,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? As long as somebody, when we show up and say, who is in charge, somebody says, I.
You next. Works in the back. I've got
Earl McKay, 255 Upson Downs Road. First place, 95 dB is shattering.
Oh, absolutely.
And that needs to be lowered to a more reasonable value, like 80 or 85 or something like that inside the building. And with that, less sound's going to get out.
That is just the way it was written. And I left that part. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, so.
Yes,
you
that's
did lower-
already in there. I did not write that part. That's already in our sound ordinance. So
What
that's
level?
something we can consider 95.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned something that didn't get answered. Oh, yeah. Well, it's so easy to turn the volume down. Why do we have to have that loud? And you're not gonna lose any customers if everybody keeps the level down. They'll get used to it, they'll figure it out. I lost my concentration. I'll let somebody else, maybe somebody else will answer the question.
My name is Melinda Molden. I live at 494 Beacon Road. I'm not sure if this is more of a question, it's more like a concern. Everybody's talking about bars and venues. My biggest concern, which it's a concern everywhere, I mean, it's all about, you know, businesses running their business and also residents being able to have a peaceful evening and not be tortured. But my thing is about Roost on the River. It's not a bar, it's not a little venue. They're trying to make it like a Legend Valley. I don't want to say the word stock, but you know, I keep an eye on the Roost on the River page. And he just got a new stage, new sound system, so they're going to go bigger than ever, is what he said. And they're nothing but thrash metal music. What's to say they'll just pay the fine and that's it, and just go on with life?
First of all, Roost on the River, whoever's in charge of that, can also go to jail. Based on how it's written. So they can, if it's persistent, they can go to jail.
Other types, so you speak up just a bit more. so-
Yeah, sorry,
Thank
I
you.
don't know how to stand, so you can hear me.
Sorry.
I apologize, I'm old.
That's
I can't
okay.
hear.
Can you hear me? Right,
Right
right
here.
here.
Also grant.
This ordinance is already in place.
Oh.
So there's no grandfathering. We are changing things to actually make it friendlier to businesses. So this is already in place. And like I said, if this doesn't go through council, the limit's 930. There's no exception for public places of employment. The decimal meter is 60 for residential neighborhoods. And I'm sure that the safety director is not going to volunteer to put a variance in. That has to be, you know, we would have to have our variance and what he considers approved by council. Or it's not. So, but the disorderly conduct statute also has some teeth now if that goes through with reference to noise, because it addresses radios, phonographs, amplifiers, loudspeakers, and it's a reasonable person standard. So the officers could go out and you have somebody whose picture is shaking off their wall, or the walls rumble with the bass every time. They're going to collect that evidence and we're going to go to court. You know, we also are exploring nuisance laws with various things. And if something becomes such a problem and such a threat to public safety, there are other ways we can shut them down. So hopefully everybody doesn't fight with us and we can all get along and just be good neighbors and good business people.
Hi, Stacey Williams, Chuck's Tavern Manager. My question is, we have a lot of hook runs, a lot of benefits that we cannot pinpoint dates. It's on somebody's house caught fire, somebody got a motorcycle accident. So when we file an application with you, wait, I can't give you dates for the summer or for 4 months. You know what I mean? It's gonna, we have an exception to the rule. Do you know what I mean? For hook runs through the summer
Well,
or,
the question is, are you gonna break the noise ordinance?
I mean, sometimes we have 4-piece bands and out in the patio, it's hot out summertime, so I don't know.
If you can't, when you go to apply for your permits, you know, you could always have, well, we have up to this date planned, so this will be. We're gonna have this date planned, you know, if you need to. We are saving you a lot of money by not making you publish in the paper. I mean,
Right, and I agree with that.
of money.
I agree with that. We just can't, I just can't say, I mean, we're having a good run this weekend. It was all of a sudden.
Will those dates be formalized 60 days before?
No, sometimes this one was 3 weeks ago. We got hit by a truck and.
So it's a benefit.
It's a benefit.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's gonna be exception to the rule for benefits, or if we can just write in, we have benefits every Saturday, or we don't know when we're having them.
Right, and
You
you
know, it seems like every
don't know if
Saturday.
there's gonna be a band or a band, because the bands are what's causing a lot of the problems.
Right.
Correct.
And we're
So-
mostly acoustic.
Yeah.
But sometimes big runs, if it's a big one, like when we did for Bummies, it was a
Right.
5-piece band, and it was very loud.
Okay.
So, you know,
Well, what the ordinance says is that anything submitted less than 60 days, because we gotta go through a whole process.
Right, I
And
mean-
if people are fighting you having your variance, they get to come to council and argue. I mean, that's the way that the ordinance was written before I had my hands on it. So I would say get it in as soon as you can. And if there's any way you can start your normal procedures and can get those filed, I know that would be most helpful to us. There's no guarantee we can get those reviewed prior. We can try, but we just can't guarantee it. And if we can't, then just try to keep the music down.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be courteous to our
Yes.
neighbors because,
Yeah.
I mean, we've been there 20 years.
Yes, because if the police aren't getting complaints, they're not gonna be driving by your place trying to see if they can hear it. They are only gonna respond to complaints.
And one more question.
No, you're good, please.
I'll be the one filling out the application.
Okay.
Do I have to be there for every Saturday karaoke?
Not necessarily you.
Okay,
You just
as
have to
long as
tell
I
us.
tell them.
You have to tell us who's in charge. It doesn't have to be
Okay, got
you. It could be her, it could be, yeah, it could be a manager, whoever.
Okay,
We just have to have a person in charge.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Riley, you have a question?
This one?
Yeah, oh, sorry. I was waiting for you to call something.
So I've got a list of questions here, and I'll
Okay.
just rattle through them. Some of them have already been answered, but 60 days for the application, is there a reason why it's 60 days? Could it be 30? Could it be 45? Is there a way we can be
You
a
know what?
little more flexible on that? Or what's the reason for the 60 days?
Well, as I was talking to Mr. Costa, I'm sure we're gonna have some growing pains with this. It's gonna be something new. The safety director's gonna have to get used to reviewing these documents and et cetera. We thought 60 days was a good time frame to give the safety director time to look at all the evidence, because, and what I was saying earlier is that I've given him the option, if he or his designee wants to go out to the location just to look and see, is this set up in the best way to minimize noise? He has that option. So that 60 days allows him to make a decision. It allows people to respond, and we have to come to council if they want to appeal his decision. We may need more than 60 days, it depends.
Or,
You know, so, but that, we thought 60 days was a fair amount of time for all of that to get done.
And then you mentioned earlier, I'm gonna try to phrase this without sounding like a smart aleck, because I really don't want, it's not my intent.
Okay.
Okay, it's not my intent. But you had mentioned the safety director or his designee.
Yep.
Visiting a site,
Uh-huh.
which I love. I think it's a great idea.
Right,
And then making suggestions on how to damper the noise,
yes.
which I love, which I think is a great idea. Am I missing? I mean, it sounds like the work of sound engineer. I don't know. I would not have that expertise. I can certainly say, okay, you got speakers pointed at this house and they're complaining, could we move those speakers? Will that have enough effect? Could I put a styrofoam thing in here? But I don't have the expertise to do that. I don't know that our safety director does, or his designee.
Yes,
Is that a?
no.
I mean,
And
where we go with that?
why I did that, I made it a may.
Okay.
So, because we don't have a position for that, and we don't have funding for an expert to come in or a contract with a subcontractor to come in and be able to go to these stations. I would hope we would get that in the future, maybe.
Mhm.
If this is a success and we can only up our game by being more precise about where these venues are, hopefully that will be something of value to the city that we can then contract with someone, which I made at or their designee, who's an expert who can go in and say, I want this stage moved this way. I want sound curtains here. If you do this, then you can have this concert. We don't have that yet, which is why I made it a may. So that we have that option in the future, if that's the direction the city would like to go.
Well, I would think that if we could go, and there's no doubt in my mind, that we could approach this with a spirit of cooperation. If the venue
Absolutely.
could also approach it with a spirit of cooperation. I would think that the people at the venues, or at least at some of these venues,
Yeah.
would have enough experience to be able to say, okay, well, we think it's going to be too loud. What if I do this? What if I do this? Because I know if I do this, it'll do this.
That would be great, assuming we would get that cooperation. I hope.
And I would expect that. I would go into it expecting that.
Well,
I would be surprised and shocked if we didn't get that cooperation. And if we didn't get that cooperation, then
they don't get the variance.
you know they're gonna be a problem.
They have to agree with everything in the variance, and they're gonna also have to agree to our decimal reader, that what the readings on our decimal reading are the readings we're going to go by. If they don't agree to that, they don't get the variance.
So I know this is, and I think I've already heard you say this, but this is complaint driven.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Jugs, I'm only picking on Jugs because they're here, thank you for coming. But they have a band and it's a 5-piece band and nobody says anything about it and they're at 1,000 decibels. Then
Somebody's gonna say something about that. But
I'm exaggerating,
this is
but you see what I
complaint
mean?
driven. Yes.
So nobody says anything about it, nobody complains about it.
The police are not gonna, they have plenty to do. They have plenty. I mean, ask my prosecutors. They have plenty to do.
Oh, I know, I'm very well aware of that.
Unless they get a complaint, they're not gonna be harassing businesses and policing where no one is complaining.
That was the same hold true for disorderly conduct?
Yes.
Okay, so a police officer drives by an apartment, hears music blaring out of this apartment, he's not gonna stop.
He's not, he can't be the victim.
Police can't be the victim of DOC. That's why we.
Yep.
That's why-
So he cannot be the victim. Yep.
So that, good answer, thank you, perhaps. And then, so we're also going under, if we have a cooperative compliance, there's not gonna be a fine levy or
No, if they are,
citation issued.
if
So if they
there's,
show up and say, hey, you're too loud, turn it down,
yes,
and they turn it down,
yes,
everything's good, they go, everybody goes about their business,
Yes.
everybody has a wonderful time.
correct? Chief?
Yeah, the complaint's over at that point in time. You've satisfied the resident, you've satisfied.
Beautiful thing,
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And then what is the fee for the application?
Well, that's something that has to be formulated by the safety director here. And I'm sure that you would be open to taking suggestions, maybe, or would you just?
Well, I just found out tonight it was at my discretion.
Hey, listen, I just write it, that's how it appears in the ordinance, so that part was
I mean,
already.
do we
in
have
there.
so you've done a lot of research with other municipalities, what does your research tell you the average fee?
I
is? Is it
originally
100
had
bucks?
one,
Is it
I had
500 bucks?
150 on there.
Pardon?
I had 150 on there,
Okay,
but that can include multiple events.
so it's
That was
150
my-
for a variance,
well,
and that variance is good for an
that
event
was
or
a-
multiple events?
That was an idea I had. It was never finalized.
Sure.
And it's left up to his discretion.
Okay, I just.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's cost prohibitive to some. I don't know. I don't know if that's.
Mr. Barton, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Rabbit, I'll comment on that. You know, when we looked through all these different ones, it ranged from, you know, there were some that were $75, there were some that were thousands of dollars.
350.
350, I mean,
You don't want that.
it was all over the board. And so, you know, we talked about 150, we then ended up making it at discretion of the safety director.
As long as it's the same for everybody.
Right.
I mean,
Right. And he will have to
if
file
the
that.
safety
with council.
director would express his discretion. Hold to that.
Yep, yep.
I mean, I just want to be fair.
Right.
I don't want it to be 150 for this person with 500.
No. There will definitely be guidelines to set that. And if that's something that council would prefer, once this goes, if this gets through committee and goes on to council, to have us formulated before you would pass that, you can also probably make that happen.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much to be gained by even having a fee. I mean, it's the threat of a misdemeanor or a jail time is enough to get them to put it forth of variance and comply. I'm not saying we shouldn't have, because I know there's time and effort being spent.
I guess paying 150 off the bat versus if you violate it and get another 150 on top of that, I guess you're gonna want to stick. with
Yeah, I'm not
the
opposed to a
policy.
fee. I know
That's
there
right.
should, I know there needs to be a fee. right?
Yes.
I understand.
Mr. Walton Smith.
Rochelle Boland Smith, 237 Violet Court. I was thinking for some of those larger venues that there could be some, as a cost of doing business, on the onset of development and later. I know when we go to concerts in Columbus, they consult with various sound engineers and that sort of thing to set up things so that they're within a reasonable range. And that seems like it would apply here too. I know Columbus has sound engineers and that sort of thing already in existence, and perhaps we can develop a list of that sort of thing to solve some of those problems. But I do know that there are an awful lot of acoustical things that you could do to absolve this problem, and it's a matter of courtesy. Thank you.
Mr. Cost, I'm gonna have you come up next.
Phil Cost, 1639 Krebs Court, Newark. Having been down this road 4 or 5 years ago, it's really refreshing to hear the conversation come back again and hear things like trying to do this to work with business, be business friendly, at the same time try to be respectful to a resident, trying to work with the safety director, the chief of police, the law director, and see what we can do to make this work. I don't think we ever quite got that far the last time. We were so hung up on some of the details about decibel readings and that sort of thing that we never got to the point of trying to find a way to work with everybody and to make it a reasonable situation for everybody. You know, one question you asked, Mr. Rath, where state what you mean. You and I dealt with some situations where the police would be called, and when they got there, the music was turned down. And when the police drove away, the music's blaring again. And so I don't know how many trips a night they're going to want to make. But like you said, you'd like to think that you're going to have people that are going to be, work with you and be respectful and be reasonable about it. But I think this is really, really positive stuff to see happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cost. Mr. McKee.
I think we may have kind of lost our focus too. The fundamental problem here is too loud. And it's so simple and easy to keep it not too loud. You simply don't play it that loud. It's like having a 1,000,000-watt light bulb and putting an opaque cover over it. That's what we're doing. You don't need sound abatement. You need to just reduce the volume. And I've worked with bands. I'm a dancer. And I've worked with bands before at dance venues and stuff. And there were times when the bands like to play loud. Everybody complained. Oh, okay. I took over the sound at this venue and we kept it down to no more than 80 dB. Everybody thought, wow, that is so cool. And one time the band was playing a little bit louder. Everybody complained because they got accustomed to that nice, comfortable level. So I think, we don't have to put abatement up. You just simply keep the volume loud. I know that the bands, they like to play it loud. That's cool, but it gives everybody a high. But if everybody gets accustomed to what's normal, what's not blasting their ears out, eventually they'll like it that way. And they'll still get their high. So, the idea of playing it too loud and putting sound barriers up or whatever, it's ridiculous. I just can't comprehend why we would do that. Just turn it down. That solves the problem. So there you go. Oh yeah, one other thing. What if the venue does not want to turn it down? You charge them $250. What if they continue to do that? We're making millions of dollars, we just pay the fine. That doesn't solve the problem. So what then?
Do they want to go to jail?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the next step. That would work.
Mr. Waller, anybody else?
Mr. Walker.
Okay, I thought some more questions.
Okay.
She told me something about before the meeting. How about foul language? How about foul, now, is that getting going to be under the freedom of speech law or what stuff, like thing or what?
There is a section under the disorderly conduct statute that talks about loud, obscene, coarse utterances. So I don't know how bad it will get with some of these bands. It has to be pretty bad for that to come out. And you know, it will be a case by case basis. It will require an investigation to see if it violates the disorderly conduct. Speech is one of our most protected forms of anything.
That's what, that was one of the
So
questions.
we're not gonna trample on that for sure. But there is a section that talks about obscene coarse utterances in the disorderly conduct statute that's already in there.
And the time limit. Weekdays, weekends, I can understand the weekdays. And I know people work on Saturdays and Sundays too.
Absolutely.
But now it's 12 o'clock.
No, it's 11.
We were told by police officer like midway one time at 12 o'clock.
It's 11 o'clock.
That's the reason why everybody goes to 12 o'clock.
Yeah, no, we made.
I know,
11.
I saw that in.
Unless the variance
But-
grants.
Okay, that's what I want to ask. Another thing we talked about before the meetings. The application how long can they go at night time? I mean, can they get a van, say, I see on the thing, the sound level at the time. Can they put down, so, well, we want to be for the next 4 days solid. I mean, we're gonna play like down on the Rooster. They play like from Monday night, Friday night to Sunday night. All 24-hour days sometimes. Is that gonna be allowed in this?
It's gonna be a case by case situation.
Well,
So
I
it's
mean,
gonna be
that's
based-
one of the complaints
It's
people
gonna be
want.
based on the application, what they're requesting,
Okay,
what the community has to say about that. And we're gonna weigh both sides to see, should it be granted or should it not be granted? Is it such a hardship to keep the hour at 11 o'clock that it is unduly difficult for this venue? Does that override the needs of the residents, or does the need of the residents say 11 o'clock is just, and we're not gonna change that?
okay, well, that's one of the questions to get back before we get up. Another thing, the cost. You know, $150. If somebody, like Tamara said, gonna put on a banquet, and they are not with the bar or the venue or anything, but they want to come in, like, just say, I'm gonna have a banquet for a downfall of God. $150 could be a lot of money for something like that. Why can't we keep that down, like for yard sale signs and other some fishing sign, keep it down around about $20 most? Can we think about that?
Well, it
That's
still
what-
has yet to be formulated.
Yeah, that's what I mean, that's,
Safety
that's,
director.
well, that's, this is probably, let's keep it down around about 20, no more than $25. Because some places can't afford that, because bands come in, some places come in band, and it's like $500 for a band.
Right.
A weekend, you know, that's $150 a lot of money for somebody like that.
I understand that. This is also, though, a lot of more paperwork for departments to do, time to process. As well as if we want to have a contractor come in, they've got to be paid. You know, so
Okay,
the city is going to have some expenses associated with this that maybe $20 is not going to.
Okay, well, I mean, you know, like safety director, stuff, also service director, and I'll be always getting paid, you know, to do his
Right.
job and stuff like that. Another one big thing. Why is schools and cities and stuff like that again? Because there are sometimes that cities get loud too, on some of these festivals and stuff. And the school, I can sit down in my house down South End and, or listen to them play band stuff down in Lakes Field, even up in Whitefield. I mean, I know it's going this time and this time and this time, but if you're gonna do it for the public, I mean, for the people, why don't we do it for the city stuff, make them be under the board too?
Okay. I respond. Okay, so like the fireworks 4th of July festival, that is open to the public and it is sponsored by the city. That's not necessarily something that we want to quash at 10 o'clock, because that's usually when the fireworks start. I mean, just examples, the St. Francis Parish Festival. I don't think we get a lot of complaints on that. And school functions, we didn't want to cause an undue burden on schools that are already struggling with money, number 2. And 3, the other thing is if we granted you a variance, it exempts you. But like things like the band playing at Whitesfield during a football game, we didn't want to have to make them every football game get a variance or anything like that. I think that's kind of unfair to the schools. So, and that's, yeah.
Well,
Just-
let me see, make more notes.
Mr. Chair,
And I got that.
I'd like to make a motion that we forward ordinance 2243 to council. I'll second that.
I have a motion.
Yeah,
Second.
second.
Motion by Mr. Parker. Second by Ms. Line. All those in favor of sending this to full council, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. That's 2243. Let me do 2244. 2244, ordinance amending chapter 648-.04 disorderly conduct of the codified ordinances of the city of Newark, Ohio, relative to noise control in the city of Newark and disorderly conduct between family or household members. Do I have a motion for that? I have a motion.
Second.
Rath, first by Rath, second by Line. All those in favor of sending this to full council, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. And that will conclude our safety committee.
We still have capital improvements, so. Anybody wants to say, or wants to, or next, that there's just one item.
You like sell it, sure.
One item.
Next count. Was that Shannon still?
Councilman Harris.
Sorry.
Go quick. You talk to him once.
So is the second.
Okay. Capital Improvement Committee is called to order. Committee members present. I hear myself, Ralph, Marmy, Labutus, and Harris. The only item on the agenda tonight is consideration of resolution number 22-100, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got 2 items. These dollars would come from capital improvements. We have approximately $100,000 left in capital improvements this year. The first item is a stand-up blower where thanks to Councilman Harris, who explains there's leaves on the bike path all the time. We can drive down the bike path, blow the leaves off. I can do this through the cemetery. I can do it in any park trails or anything else. As a tester, we bought one in the downtown district through using water dollars, and they work great. It just helps clear things off a lot better. My hopes, leave me these phone calls I get from Mr. Harris.
And that's $8,500. So, and the next item.
The next item is a proposed dump truck, and let me be clear, we're looking for a dump truck. We can't find a dump truck that we can just buy right now. We've got an opportunity to order one, and it might come in 6 months from now. And we're also looking for a good used one. So the number $65,000 is a dart at where we think we would be. We use a dump truck in the parks and the cemetery a lot. We move a lot of dirt, we dig graves, we move dirt. We haul stone. Our dump truck that we're trying to replace is 1992. It's got transmission problems, it just constantly has problems. So we're trying to get them a new dump truck. Although we don't have one yet, so I thought, well, we're gonna appropriate the dollars. If I can't find one by the end of the year, what I'll do is I'll close the dollars roll back into the general fund, and I come back to you guys again out of next year's dollars.
So moved.
Second. I'm fine. I'm fine. You answer my question.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Motion by Harris, second by Rath. Any more discussions? Oh, yes, Mr. Murray?
Yeah, I just, now you'll test that leaf blower 4 times a year in the fall at my house?
Yes.
Okay.
I was thinking the same thing.
You can test them every day at my house.
I'm gonna have 1 minute on my phone because Mr. Harrison will call me saying green lecture.
Well, there'll be Marmy Rath and Holly Bird now.
Do you have a question?
No, if we don't find a dump truck, I'll inform the capital improvement share and finance share. I'll let this financial back.
Tim Wald, 167 South Second Street. About to blow snow, I want to just give him a little thing, but snow blower, when I was out the county, took care of bike trails at the county. We have a blower, we blow it. I mean, we have a big one, back of a tractor. It didn't look crap, I told me it got wet. We found out that you get one of the brushes, like you do on highways and stuff, well, 1,000% better. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor, signify by sending on council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. This concludes our meetings for this evening.
What? Oh, it's home. Yeah.